Hey everybody, Desert Rambler here, coming at you after a bit of a hiatus. I'll give you an update of what's been going on. So I haven't had much of a chance to get out to any desert environs, but I will have more videos coming up soon. So appreciate you all hanging around and subscribing, and hopefully looking forward to some more videos from me. But today I just wanted to do something, so I'm gonna head back up into my secret lair and do a little video on hydration since we're heading into summer and things are heating up. So let's head on inside and talk a little bit about hydration. So here we are back up in the secret lair. I've been wanting to do a video on hydration for a long time. I'd actually started one when I was out camping at Panamint Dunes, and the video wound up 1 hour and 15 minutes. I just felt like no one's going to watch that. And just to preface, I'm not a medical professional. I had to do a lot of research in books, online. I have emailed doctors. I've talked to people. So I've had to piece together a lot of different things. And it's just taken me a long time to decide how I wanted to approach this. So I wanted it to be as short and sweet as possible so that it is not overly scientific, but gets you the information that could, possibly save your life. So in front of me here is basically my essentials for hydration. So if you saw my video on survival backpack, I use this Coghlan's expandable water carrier. It holds 2 gallons and it fits inside of my backpack. I use this military type canteen that holds 32 ounces, 1 quart. And I have pretzels and I have some homemade electrolyte powder. You can get this recipe from the WHO, World Health Organization. Just go online and look up electrolyte recipe, World Health Organization, and you can make this for pennies versus buying some fancy powder somewhere. So getting into a little bit of the science, the average human body can only absorb roughly 33 ounces of water per hour. That would be a perfectly healthy, perfect human specimen, which is going to be a younger person with no underlying medical conditions, etc., etc. Not on any medication, not taking alcohol, not on caffeine, not on any other kinds of medicine that can hinder water absorption. So 33 ounces. So if you are exceeding that amount out of your body, you will start to get dehydrated. There's nothing you can do to reverse that by taking more than 33 ounces an hour. So what will happen if you take more than 33 ounces an hour, or you guzzle 33 ounces very quickly, is that you can put yourself into a condition where you are low on, or the ratio between water and salt is too much. So you get into what's called a hyponatremia. And that means that you it's water intoxication, basically. And so when you see people on forums and chat groups and your friends and neighbors or whatever, and they say, just drink tons of water when you go to the desert. Just drink tons of water. That is the worst advice that you could possibly receive. You can only absorb maximum 33 ounces per hour. And even at that, you want to split that up into, quarter-hour increments. So you're going to take a fourth of that over the hour. So every 15 minutes, a quarter of this should be gone. That is why I bought this, is that I know that after 1 hour, this should be gone and it's time to refill it with this. So what does that tell you? That says that basically once this is gone, there should be no more. You should be back at your car where you have more water when this is basically gone, that you should be to safety. So these are your fuel tanks right here. You can't exceed that. So when you are older, when you're on meds, when you have underlying conditions, you will not get 33-ounce absorption. You might get 22, 25, 27, etc. So how does this relate to dehydration? So when you are mildly dehydrated, in other words, you actually feel like, wow, I'm a little thirsty, I could take a drink right now. You're actually already on your way to dehydration. So when you feel thirsty, you're already like around 2 to 3% low on your water. So if you wonder, well, how do I know how much water that is? If you go to a website, it's called Omni Calculators. Calculators. I wish I could spell that today. And you go look for their calculator that's total body water calculator. And then you fill that out, you put in your age, you put in your height, your weight, or whatever, and it will tell you roughly, on average, how much water is in your body. So what you need to do, it'll be in gallons. You need to convert that to ounces, which is your gallons times 128. So for me, I had 11.7 gallons of water in my body at my age and height and weight. And when I did the calculations and converted that out and multiplied it by the 2 or 3%, I'm roughly around 30 ounces low of water when I am at mild dehydration, or when I first start feeling thirst. I am 30 ounces low already. So if you go out hiking and it's hot and you're concerned about dehydration, and when you start your hike you feel thirsty, you are already this much low. Well, how much does it take to absorb? It's 33 ounces an hour. So you're already 1 hour away from being at a healthy water situation. So you're already starting off with a deficit. So now you continue to hike and you start to drink, and then you drink and drink and drink a lot of water. So let's say you drink, 45 ounces of water. Well, if you drink that very quickly, all that is just going to do is run straight through your bladder and you're going to pee it out. So you're not going to get the benefit of that 33 ounces that you need. In addition, if you are not taking your electrolytes and you start guzzling water to make up for that thirst, you're going to be starting to get your ratio, your sodium, potassium, the ratio of water to those minerals is going to be way off. And believe it or not, the hyponatremia is a very common cause of death in runners, in military people training, because they're just told to drink water. And they start to feel symptoms that are like dehydration. So they drink more water. I have actually experienced this. One of the first times I went to the desert, I was preloading with lots of water, and I thought that was the right thing to do. And the very first day, I felt absolutely terrible the next morning. So I started drinking more water. And something clicked in my head, just some of the readings that I had done about hyponatremia. I'm like, wait a minute, this might be hyponatremia. So I started eating salty snacks and I laid off the water for a couple hours and I started to come around. So I have experienced that. And yeah, you can get tricked into thinking that's dehydration. So it's very important to not exceed the 33. So some factors that can contribute to premature dehydration is your age, is that if you're drinking alcohol, if you're on any kind of diuretic, caffeine, etc., if you're on medication, certain heart medications, you have to know yourself, know your body. And if you're not sure, talk to a doctor and ask them if any of the conditions you may have or medicine that you're on would contribute to dehydration. Know that before you go out into the desert or any hot environment for that matter. You may have an underlying condition you're not aware of. And as soon as you get yourself into a hyponatremic situation by over guzzling too much water, you can actually get a heart attack. A lot of times it's listed as cause of death dehydration, but it very likely was either a heart attack or some other condition, and very often it can be hyponatremia. So over guzzling water, don't do it. And the bottom line is that you have to treat your water as like your gas tank in your car. How much water you can carry is how far you can go. You can't just say, I'm going to do a 10-mile hike, and then you just go and you try to figure it out on the way. So between these two items here, I have 289 ounces, actually 288 ounces of water. Okay, so you divide that out by 33. So anyway, it's around 8.7 roughly hours of drinking that I can do. And that would be at your body losing 33 ounces an hour, or 1 liter. But we haven't addressed how much water does your body lose through evaporation. So if you were sitting indoors doing nothing all day, you're going to lose somewhere around 2.5 to 3 liters per day. But if you're out hiking in the desert and it's 100 degrees, even with a mild amount of exertion, you could be easily 1 liter to 1.5 liters per hour, not per day, per hour. So a liter is 33 ounces. So you can see what happens here is that if you can only absorb 33 ounces and you're losing 1 to 1.5, anything over 1 liter, you're slowly starting to get into a deficit. So this is where people that are out in the desert for 4 or 5 days and they're doing, normal hikes, nothing too serious. They're roughly, 0.5, half a liter going in the hole every hour. So over this time period, the dehydration will creep up on you. And then you go out on a long hike, you've got all your water, you've got everything except that you're already at a deficit, and now you're 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles from your car, from safety, from air conditioning to cool down, and you start cramping up in your legs, and you start getting dizzy, and you start seeing hallucinations, and so on, and you turn around and you don't make it back. There's so many people, so many stories in the desert regions where the people were a mile or less from their car. They could see the parking lot. They could see where their car was parked, and they fell down because of leg cramps. They got severe dehydration. Then the heat exhaustion came on. And it's from heat exhaustion to heat stroke can be as little as 15 to 30 minutes. And if your legs are so cramped you can't move, and all of a sudden you're laying down on the ground, it's 150 to 200 degrees. Well, you can imagine what's happened. So in addition to possibly having a heart attack or what have you when the imbalance in your body happens. So you have to be really careful of this dehydration creeping up on you over time. And make sure when you enter the desert that you're fully hydrated and not overhydrated, that you have the proper amount of electrolytes. When I hike, I keep these pretzels. About every 15 minutes, I take a couple pretzels along with my drink. So let's move on to heavier exertion. So when you are starting to really exert yourself, you're climbing trails, hilly, etc., you can actually lose 1.5 to 3.5 liters per hour. So at this rate of loss, you really can't afford to be hiking very long because you cannot replenish. You're only replenishing 1 liter per hour for a perfect specimen human. So if you're jogging, running, whatever, in high heat, and you're at this rate of perspiration per hour, nothing you can do will completely replenish that. So you have to know your limitation, and then you have to get yourself out of that heat until your perspiration drops down to where you can absorb 1 liter and your body is retaining it. And if you get yourself into a situation where you're actually in heat stroke, the only way to replenish that is with intravenous solution, and that's basically a hospital. So there's nothing you can do to get out of that except being hospitalized or have paramedics get to you. And obviously, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, it's not going to happen. Even if you have a satellite comm, you press that button, you're talking, 3 to 4 hours at minimum before anyone gets to you. It's too late. So let's go over some bullet points here to wrap this up. It takes 3 weeks to acclimate to high temperatures. But the downside of that is that you will sweat more. So you'll be able to withstand higher temperatures, but you will lose more water. So therefore, you actually will have less range than you would because you're sweating more and you won't be able to replenish it. But you will be able to withstand higher temperatures for short bursts of time if you acclimate for 3 weeks. Enter the desert hydrated. Electrolytes and water only. Don't drink alcohol or coffee or anything caffeinated. Energy drinks if you're going to be going out doing a strenuous high heat desert hike. Don't drink ice water. So, quick aside, when the British were traveling through Africa on their military conquests, they drank tea. Now, this wasn't tea at 120 degrees. This was tea that was lukewarm or ambient temperature. So why do I say don't drink ice water? The receptors are in your mouth that determine whether your body will perspire or not. So if you drink ice water, your body senses that it's cold outside and it will shut down your perspiration. So when you're out doing your hikes, you want to just drink water that is either ambient temperature or it could be slightly cool. You would only use ice water in a situation where you had gotten yourself back to safety, you were in heat exhaustion, and you used some ice water. And I'm not talking like 35 degree water, 45, 50, 55 degree water to cool down your internal body. Carry salty snacks. You saw my pretzels. Calculate your body water using that calculator website I told you about earlier. Thermometer. Carry a thermometer. So, but know that your mouth temperature will be 1 to 3 degrees cooler than the rectal temperature, which is your actual core temperature. So if you feel like you're getting some symptoms of heat exhaustion, take your temperature by mouth and just treat it like you would if you were sick. If you have a 100.5 or a 101 temperature, then you're actually entering heat exhaustion. It is the same thing as if you were sick. If your temperature is 104, 105, you are in serious danger. So carry a thermometer and practice using it when you're out and you feel like you're really hot and you're sweating and you've just done some exercise. Pop this in and see where you're at. I think you'll be surprised. And that's how you learn to know your body and what you can handle. Walk with a UV blocking umbrella. So a lot of people just don't remember that the temperatures that are being reported are in the shade. So all the thermometer sensors that the weather services use are in a box that has slats on it, and they're in the shade. But there's very little shade in the desert, or none. So carry a UV blocking umbrella. The temperature under the umbrella will be 15 to 20 degrees cooler than in the direct sunshine. Remember that you perspire in the desert even if you don't see sweat on you. So a lot of people think that they're not working too hard, and they actually are sweating as much as they would if they were in an environment that was a higher humidity. Talk to your doctor. If you are an older person, if you've had any kind of heart disease or any issues, diabetes, if you're on medications, etc., etc., let them know what your plans are. Tell them you want to do some high temperature desert hiking or sightseeing, and they will give you an idea of what you should watch out for. So know your body. It's crucial. Everyone is slightly different. That's why it's so hard to find data in one place. I think people are reluctant to say, well, here's how much you should drink, here's what you should avoid, here's the temperature you should avoid, here's how much electrolyte you should take. It's different for every person, so there's a lot of generalizations. That's why I'm trying to drill this down into something that's manageable and may help you. Practice your high heat hiking in less hot temperatures until you're acclimated and you've learned your body. And so practice different levels of exertion and take your temperature. Moving on. Know the symptoms of dehydration, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and hyponatremia, aka water intoxication. Look these things up and read about them online for yourself. Remember, heat exhaustion And then heat stroke, which happens after that, can happen even if you are fully hydrated. So being dehydrated just means that heat exhaustion and heat stroke will come on quicker, but they still will come on if you have your body core temperature rise to 104, 105 degrees. Doesn't matter if you're fully hydrated, the perfect specimen body in the world, you hit these temperatures and you are in heat stroke. So drinking water and then going out and trying to do a 5-mile hike in 110 degrees is very risky, because if you have not trained, if you haven't acclimated, if you don't know your body, you have no idea what will happen. So study and know what heat index temperature means before you hike in hot weather, and know what the heat index is for your area. Heat index takes into account the humidity and the temperature in the shade. And that is very important, because the higher the humidity, the less evaporative cooling effect your sweat has on your body. So one positive thing about high heat in the desert is the old adage, well, it's a dry heat. It works in your favor because it does pull a lot of moisture out of your body, which cools you way better than if you were in a humid environment. Be very cautious if the temps are 90 degrees. Super cautious if the temperature is 98, which is about your body temperature. And only the most prepared and trained should hike in temps of 102 and over. So the reason for this is that, and I would lower this 90 if you're elderly, I would be very cautious in the mid 80s. But if you dehydrate or your cooling mechanism fails, aka sweating, the ambient temperature, at 102 is already basically just a couple degrees from heat stroke. So it would take very, very little exertion to get you up to 104, 105 degrees. So you have to be very, very careful when the ambient temperature is at the 102 or above mark. And I would not recommend anyone going out in that unless you're completely trained and do it at your own risk. Carbohydrate foods are the best. Eating meat and proteins are not good for high desert heat. The body is going to put a lot of water to breaking down those proteins, and in that process it's going to generate a lot of heat in your core. So try to stick with carbohydrates. Do your own research. Goes without saying, I am not a medical doctor. I did all this research. I may be missing something important. So this is my research, and I'm giving you some guidelines. Do your own research, please. All right, know the urine dehydration charts. The color of your urine is the best way to tell if you are dehydrated, but you do have to know that certain medications and vitamins and other medical conditions can affect the color. I think we've all seen when you take a multivitamin, your pee is yellow, even though you might be fully hydrated and it would normally be clear. And one more time, remember, if you are thirsty, you are already mildly dehydrated. So do not start a strenuous desert high heat hike if you are feeling thirsty. Sit it out for a bit until you are fully hydrated and then head out. I hope you have enjoyed these tips. Be safe out there. And if you have any questions, please put it in the comments. Thanks for liking and subscribing. I promise that I will have more adventures from the desert videos coming up here very soon. Stick around for that, and we'll catch you on the next video.